In this video, I'm going to explain how all of human relationships work. Call it the ocean. The ocean is anyone who you don't have a relationship with, but you hypothetically could. That's anyone who speaks the same language as you and anyone who's from the same culture as you. Now, the ocean definitely shouldn't be the basis for your relationships, but it isn't something you should discount either. Have you ever struck up a conversation with a stranger on a bench? That shit's magical. Do not discount that. But obviously the ocean is not a good basis for all relationships because there's a lot of disadvantages here. If you are pulling someone from the ocean, and this will come in later, you don't know if that person's a weirdo. You don't know if this person's trying to scam you. You don't know if this person's trying to steal your bike. This is real footage of someone trying to steal my bike. And that's why it's important to have an inner circle. This is the circle we call community. Traditionally speaking, communities would always come from religious venues, i.e. the same people who you meet in either your shul or your church. You also have communities of necessity, people like your neighbors. These are just the people that are nearby you. And you also have your peers. This is people who go to the same work or the same school as you. Now, on a surface level, a community might seem just like people who you have anything in common with, but it has to go at least a little bit deeper than that. It has to be somebody who shares values with you. The reason why religious venues make for the best communities is because everyone there is united by a single purpose, that being following the religion at hand. And religions usually contain a few features like requiring charity and love and kindness to people. And so when you have a group of people all united under that one purpose, they are able to be good to each other, they are able to collaborate, they are able to form connections with each other much better and much more efficiently than any other way of organizing people. And so when you have this bedrock of a good community, then you can have an inner circle, your connection circle. And what you can do is you can pull people in from the community. And because you know them, because you know their grandma, because you know their partner, you know these people will be good to you. They cannot be an asshole to you because if they are, they will be held to account by all the people around you. Now, yes, you can also pull people from the void, and sometimes this is a good idea. The other day, I met someone on a bench. They were crying. They had just had a breakup. I sat next to them and we had a conversation and we swapped Instagrams, and that was a really magical connection we had. And so the connection circle is made up by some more complicated connections. The first kind of connection you should be looking for is elders. Old people are objectively the most underrated kind of human on the planet, and it's for one reason. When you're first learning a language, you have to actively think of the grammar you want to use. You have to really strain to remember the vocabulary. But once you've been learning it for a while, that all fades away and you gain a kind of fluency in the language, where you can just start spitting out grammatically correct sentences without necessarily even knowing why they're grammatically correct. Well, get this, old people have been speaking the language of being a human for like 50 years straight. You can ask them questions and they will just spit out the right answer to questions of career and friendship and love and exercise without even knowing why they're correct, because they've been speaking this language for so long they have just become masters at it. And not only that, but they want to. Old people love speaking to young people. They love having influence on the younger generation because it gives them a sense of purpose. So you enter this mutually beneficial relationship where they get joy out of seeing you succeed and you get really good advice. Another connection you need is minor friends. Minor friends are not so much nodes in your network, but more things you use to navigate around them. Minor friends are kind of like checkpoints which you can put around in different communities, and the more minor friends you have, it gives you this fluency. You can swim around social situations using minor friends as points to push off from. Another thing that minor friends are great for is becoming roommates. Like it or not, you will probably have to live with someone at some point, and you would much rather live with someone you like instead of doing what I did and living with 5 random people. It's around this stage that you're also going to want to start developing your professional network. Now, professional networks can be kind of cringe because all these relationships are inherently transactional. You're not being around these people because you like them. You're being around these people just because they have something to offer you. But get this, if people in your professional network are also connected to your community, now you do have something in common with them, and your professional network can expand, because not only do you know a few people in your industry or people who are doing the same job as you, but you can know people that will know people. By having a community, your professional network expands way further than even you know that it's expanded, because you can ask people to introduce you to people. And if you spend long enough in your professional network, you can pull them into the even deeper circle of being either a mentor or a business partner. Now, another really underrated relationship around here is the rival. Rivals are deeply misunderstood because they're not the same thing as an enemy. A rival is somebody who is good at the same thing you're good at, somebody who pushes you to be better by comparison to them. I compete in competitive public speaking, and whenever me and our team are going to compete, we all watch each other's speeches and we all give each other feedback on how to make our speeches better. Them being around me makes them better public speakers because I am helping them practice by giving them good feedback. But also, I am made better by being around them. A, from the advice they give me, but also because seeing them makes me want to succeed more. I have now people who I want to be better than, people who I want to compete with, not by putting them down, but by putting myself up. And so being around these people, we both have a constant source of motivation. There is also your extended family. I don't have much to say about this one, but it's just nice to have people who you can see at Christmas. But one I do have a lot to say about is a congregation leader. These are either priests or rabbis or whatever the equivalent is for your religion. Everyone in the congregation, they care about deeply. They want to push them forwards on their spiritual journey. They care about their personal life. It is a congregation leader's job to just care about people infinitely and offer services to help them and be good at it. Get this, if you have a conflict with somebody in your community, you can go to a congregation leader and it is in their interest. They will help you to solve it in a way that's better for everyone. You may have things within you. You may have spite and jealousy, but they don't have that. They are transcendent to that, and they can help you, and they can be the word of wisdom that you and this other person need. They can also help you find people, which means that this is another one of those relationships that actually helps you find more relationships. The last thing I want to talk about in this tier is guests. Your house should not just be a place you live, some utilitarian invention that protects you from ice and snow. No, you should be trying to make your house at all moments a home, somewhere you care about, somewhere that has spiritual significance to you. And the number one way to do that is by hosting, by having people over, by turning the place you live into a source of friendship. Food and board games and parties are all great for this. Having people in your space deepens your connection with them and your connection to the space. Guests and guesthood is also a great filter, because once you pull people from your community to a connection, you can then pull them from a connection to a relationship, and that's one of the inner spheres. Because the primary thing making up your inner sphere should be friends. And obviously you understand what a friend is, I don't need to explain that, but something I feel like I do need to explain is a ride or die. A ride or die is more than a friend. They are closer than a friend. They are someone who truly matters to you. And get this, it is something that you cannot attain if you think about relationships transactionally. There are a lot of people these days putting out advice saying that you should care about you, and you should care about your peace, and you shouldn't let toxic people into your life, and if someone is causing you issues, you should cut them out. But a ride or die is someone whose problems you see as the same as your own. Someone who you are willing to take on problems for within the short term because you care about them. And by definition, if you are cutting out anyone who is a problem, you can never attain this level of deep connection. It is impossible to have a ride or die unless you are willing to sacrifice for them. You also have your family, which are the elders who you are related to. Family have a kind of inherent bond where you care about each other whether you want to or not, and wasting that is a huge shame. If there is a single takeaway you can get from this video, it's that your grandma wants you to call her, so call your grandma. Like, now. Another type of family member you gotta have is dependence. When you're young, you'll have like a Pokemon or a Tamagotchi or a doll or a goldfish. These are things which are dependent on you, but only in a nominal sense. And once you've had this for a while, once you've practiced taking care of something, then you can take care of something a bit more complex. Like a dog, this typically happens when you're around 14, 15. Suddenly your parents want you to start feeding the dog and picking up after the dog and walking the dog. Then you get older, then you get to your 20s. Now you have younger family members, you have younger cousins, younger siblings, and suddenly you're asked to take care of them. You're taking them out to the park, you're cooking food for them, you're introducing them to their first video game, and then a month later they send you a text saying that they've finished Castle Crashers for the first time. And this gives you a sense of purpose. This is somebody smaller and weaker and more vulnerable than you that you are taking an active role in improving. You are a part of their life. And you are learning things about what it is like to raise a human, and this prepares you for the final stage, which is children. And I'm not like at the having children stage yet, but I acknowledge that I one day will, and so I am training to be good at this by taking care of younger members of my family right now. Speaking of handing down wisdom, another type of relationship that you're going to want around this stage is a mentor. A mentor is like a more close and advanced version of an elder. It is someone with specific guidance in any field that you're a part of. This is usually something career related, but can also be something like your sexuality or an addiction you're facing. You find someone who is the same type of thing as you, and you ask them about the problems and successes that they have faced so that they can give you custom advice for how you can move forwards. And then at the end of this process, you can pay it forwards as you take on a mentee of your own. Another very underrated relationship to have here is a co-owner. This is literally someone who owns half of a thing that you also own. Yes, this is a transactional relationship, however, putting yourself into something and also having someone else do the same unites you in something external to yourself. If this is a business, this is someone who is on your side financially and is pushing you to do better because it behooves them. And of course, the final type of relationship is with a therapist. A therapist is someone who doesn't care about you personally, but does have the skills and experience to help you with your life going forwards. And so once you are surrounded with all these lovely relationships, you can get to the final inner core yourself. You can understand who you are as a person, not by sitting in a room doing meditation and stoicism, thinking about who you really are, like on the inside, man. No, you learn who you are through connecting with other people. And once you've found who you are, you can share who you are with a romantic partner. There is a reason that people call their romantic partner their other half. It's because you and this person have to face the world together, holding hands. If you have a dependent, that is their dependent as well. If you own a house, that is their house as well. If you move through a space, they are moving through it with you. A partner is more than someone who just satisfies your immediate sexual urges. A partner is someone who you go through life is tied at the hip, and you agree that every challenge you take on together. Okay, so if this is like what relationships are supposed to look like, this is what you have. This is where you're at right now. You might think you have a community. You're like, oh, I have societies, and I go to HEMA practice, and I also go to table tennis practice, and I also do knitting, and I'm in a fan club for a musical artist I like, and this is my community. No, it's not. You and your Discord server do not deeply care about one another. If you were to scam someone in your Discord server, you could just leave with no consequences. You and the other people in your kickboxing class might pat each other on the back and say, "Good job, man," after every session, but that's not the same thing as you deeply caring about one another. The thing about people in your community is even if you don't know them, you trust them. And unless you have a big group of people who you trust inherently because of who they are, you do not have a community. At best, you have a couple peers. And because you're not in a proper organized community, you don't have a congregation leader. The absolute best you have is a society leader. You know, like the owner of the club or the coach of your MMA place. The difference being that a congregation leader is good at what they do. They didn't just end up president of a society. They care deeply about everyone, and they will always do the best they can to find solutions to any conflict because they are connected with people elder to them that can help them with this. Meanwhile, if there is some kind of conflicts or unsurety within a society, the president of your society is most likely to either kick you out for causing trouble or to say, "I don't know how to solve this, go deal with it on your own." Again, you're not in a community. You're in, at best, a group. Now, you do have guest service sometimes, and you do have minor friends, and you have your extended family, but you don't have elders. If you are in university like me, you are not regularly hanging out with people over 50 years old, and you are suffering for that fact. You don't have a mentor because you don't care deeply enough about the thing you do. You're not throwing yourself into your career, so you're not making the professional network connections to even find a mentor. Oh, but you have added something. You have added something that wasn't there before. You've added parasocial relationships. Yeah, those are fun. And you probably do have a therapist, but because you don't have this outer ring of relationships, the therapist doesn't have anything to connect you with. So you go to your therapist and you say, "Fix me," and they say, "I can't," because a polar bear is an elite survival machine. So is a killer whale. But if you take a polar bear and you put him in the middle of the desert, he'll die of heat exhaustion. If you take a killer whale and you put him in a jungle outside of any water, he'll die. Humans are kind and wise and giving. We are motivated and hardworking, but only when we're in our proper habitat. When you have rivals pushing you forwards, when you have a mentor telling you what to do, when you have elders who you can ask for advice, when you have co-owners who are invested in your success and want you to go forwards, you can be motivated. But if you've taken all those complex relationships away, you can't be motivated. And so with no people to reflect off of, you have no relationship with yourself. And with no relationship with yourself, you have a partner who you can barely love properly. And without the advice of elders, this relationship breaks down in 3 years, and you tell yourself, that's just how love works. But no, it isn't. You can go to like Hasidic Jewish communities. These people will get married at like 20 years old, and their rates of divorce are nothing. Because they have tightly packed communities that are built for keeping people together. The reason your last relationship failed isn't because that's just how they work, it's because your relationship didn't have a proper support network external to itself. And without all these relationships, you push on your partner saying, "You need to be everything. You need to provide me with everything from support to rivalry to being my minor friend to being my close friend. You need to satisfy everything about me," and they can't. And who knows, maybe you've even turned into a particularly mean person of late. Maybe you're in some minor conflict and you could forget it, but instead you go around telling everyone about it and cause even more conflict. Maybe you ostracize someone for a group. Maybe you bully someone. And I'm not talking like high school bullying, I'm talking like ostracizing someone in a group because they deserve it. That's what you tell yourself. Kids can bully anyone, but adults can only bully someone if they deserve it. And when you don't have a proper community, it is very easy to convince yourself that people deserve things. And if you thought this was bad enough, one day you're gonna leave university, man. You're gonna leave university and then this is what you're gonna have. You're gonna have like 2 friends who you kept. You're gonna have 2 friends and you're gonna have your family and you're not going to have any peers anymore because you don't care about any of the people at your job, and you're not going to have enough relations to have a rivalry or mentors or elders, and you're not going to see anyone, and you're going to lean more and more on the parasocial relationships, and then you're going to look for a partner, and you're going to ask your 2 closest friends, and you're going to go, I'm not attracted to either of these people, so you're going to go out to the void, to the ocean. You are going to say, ocean, void, find me someone. You're going to go out to clubs, and people are going to act like psychopaths towards you because they have no system of accountability. You're going to go on Tinder, and you're going to be surprised when you can't instantly build a connection with people who you have no rapport with. So you're not going to find anyone, and then your relationships with your friends are slowly going to fade away, and then you're going to be lonely forever. So, yeah, good luck with that.